Welcome back to Haley's Hot Take, talking hockey per usual. I'm Haley Taylor Simon, and I am live on YouTube. This is so weird to me. So, I've been doing this podcast for 4 years now, and I've never been on camera when doing an episode of my podcast because I always said, I'm never going to give in. I'm never going to go to YouTube. I'm never going to have people see my face when I'm talking hockey. And, hi, here we are. As you can see, my face talking hockey. I just feel like this was an appropriate chapter for me to do in my life. I've been doing this podcast for 4 years now, as I mentioned, and I've always kind of wanted to do video. And there was a lot of reasons why I didn't want to do video, but now I'm good. And I'm like, okay, you know what? Let's do some video. I bought a studio, an at-home studio. That is right. So I have studio lights, which are blinding me. I feel like a goalie. I'm like, I can't see. I have a professional microphone, a professional camera. So we are all good. I actually moved into the apartment I live at just because of this brick wall, because I thought it would be an aesthetic like background. So no, this is not like a green screen. Like this is an actual wall. And we are here. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about me, about the podcast. And of course, we're going to talk some hockey. But thank you so much for all of your endless support after 4 years of me doing this podcast and allowing me to adventure off to my next adventure of doing it on YouTube as well. So you're still going to hear it on Spotify, SoundCloud, Apple Music, wherever you get your podcast. But now you can physically, as you can see me on YouTube. So make sure to like, subscribe, and leave a comment below of your favorite hockey memory. So let's talk about this podcast, because where did it begin? Who am I? 4 years. What is going on? So I began doing this podcast during the pandemic in 2020. There was no hockey. This was before bubble hockey even, and I really missed hockey. Hockey has always been the love of my life. It's always been my biggest passion. People literally call me, and I'm not even just saying it because I gave myself this nickname, Hockey Haley, because of how much I talk about hockey. It just goes naturally hand in hand. So I'm bored. I'm at West Virginia University, and I'm like, you know what? I want to talk some stick and puck. So I get a little lavalier microphone. It was only like $5 on Amazon. I plugged it into my phone. I had like the voice memo thing, and I would just do my podcast like that, like holding the mic, holding my phone, and that's how I would do my podcast. So no, the audio quality sucked, but you know what? A for effort on getting at least a little bit of a microphone. So bubble hockey comes around. And obviously, bubble hockey has a special place in my heart since that was the last time the Philadelphia Flyers were in the playoffs and got eliminated by the Islanders, which really sucked because the Islanders ended up making it to the playoffs this year and the Flyers didn't. But the point is, bubble hockey has a special place in my heart because that's when kind of the magic of Haley's Hot Take began. I would watch every single playoff game, I kid you not. And after every game, I would get on the floor, hold my little lavalier microphone, and just begin talking about the game. And this became a pattern daily. And I always wanted to expand on all 32 NHL teams because as much as I love, the few teams that mean a lot to me, I also wanted to talk about what was going on in the NHL. And I think growing up and, having aspirations of, what do you want to do in life? I always just wanted to talk hockey. It didn't matter if it was the NHL, the OHL, the WHL, the AHL. Baby, we're talking all types of hockey here on Haley's Hot Take. So I just love the fact that I gave myself a platform where I could truly talk about what I wanted to talk about, which is hockey. So that is about how the podcast began. And it has given me so many opportunities. I had a really cool sponsorship while I was in college that I partnered up with. And I guess there's still a sponsor because you can still use my promo code Haley T Simon 13 for GoPuff. But it was such a cool experience just being able to live out my podcasting dream. And then came my real life. So I am 25 now. It is 2024, and I still do daily episodes of Haley's Hot Take on Spotify, but I've been busy with another podcast. And as you can see, there's a St. Louis Blues custom jersey behind me. And I do Locked On Blues. I'm the host of that podcast for the Locked On Podcast Network. Like and subscribe. So I feel like I've been really comfortable. It's almost been 1 year of doing that podcast, of being in front of the camera, talking hockey. And then for the Philadelphia Flyers, as you can see, my TK jersey behind me and my hat. I write for the Hockey News. I'm a contributor for the website. And it's been probably the biggest dreams come true for both of these different outlets. In a million years, I would have never thought seriously that I would be in locker rooms interviewing players after a game. Like post-game interviews are so cool. Even though sometimes it sucks because the team loses and the vibe is kind of off, it is the coolest thing ever. Being able to see my name published in articles, to see my name, especially in St. Louis on the local news station. They always have my daily episodes linked to their website. It is insane. And take the players away, the personnel that I've met, you know, Danny Briere, Flyers GM, Keith Jones, president of hockey operations, meeting even different broadcasters like a Jamie Rivers for the St. Louis Blues. He used to be on the Canadians, fun fact. But there was just so many cool moments that I've experienced over 3 years of doing this whole thing. That's what I'm going to call it, this whole thing, because that's what it is. And then I went off to hockey Twitter, which is a whole entity in its own. But it's shown me a couple of things, how important women are when it comes to hockey. I was really fortunate enough to be at the Flyers Charity Carnival, and they had me in the dunk tank. And yes, I got dunked quite a bit. And while I was in the dunk tank, I was able to meet some people from hockey Twitter, some girls that said that they followed me. And it got me thinking, talking about hockey has just given me so much happiness in my life. And it's allowed me to live out a dream that I'm still going to live out, by the way. This is not over yet at all. I'm going to the draft in a couple weeks. So I'm still doing a lot with hockey, right? That's not going to stop. But it inspired me to get in front of the camera so you can physically see that women are capable of talking about hockey and being successful. And it is a path that you can go down. It is a path that is possible. There are so many possibilities when it comes to women in media, women in sports. And even if it's doing your own podcast like I am, it's still something that allows you to talk about what makes you the most happy. And for me, that's hockey. Every single day I go to my job and I'm really lucky what I get to do, but I go to my job and I walk in and there's this guy. And whenever he's working, I give him a 1 minute hockey recap of what happened from the night before. And the reason why I'm telling you all this about me is because I want you to know how much I truly love talking about this game. Sometimes it's frustrating, right? Like the end of the Flyer season, it was the most infuriating thing. I came up with all these scenarios of how they can make the playoffs, and it didn't happen. Thanks a lot, Detroit and Washington. Well, and it was really the Flyers' fault, okay? But the point being is hockey is frustrating. I mean, when your team joins the league in 1967 and you have yet to see them win a cup because they won the cups before you were born, yeah, it sucks. Um, but then you have really cool miracle Cinderella runs like the St. Louis Blues in that 2018-2019 season. So there are really cool stories that come out of hockey. I mean, you have the Vegas Golden Knights, an expansion team. After 6 seasons, they win the Stanley Cup. Are you kidding me? Then you have the Arizona Coyotes that now relocated officially to Utah. Not a name yet, but there's so many cool things about hockey. There's so many cool things about players. And I feel like this is a platform where we can talk about that. We can talk about the fact that all of these Bruins fans hate. When I say hate, I mean absolutely hate Kachuk. But you know who likes Matthew Tkachuk? I do, because I wish he was on my team. So there is so much that we can get into. There's so much that we can discuss. And this is an open discussion. If I'm talking about something and you want it to be about something else that you have a question for, leave me a comment down below and let me know what you want to talk about. I think with hockey, you really can talk about everything and anything. And with a sport that I feel like has such a niche kind of fan base, because that's what it is, it allows for even deeper conversations because every single hockey fan I know is not a casual fan. They are passionate, and that's what it's all about. And that's why I'm doing this podcast. I mean, listen, it's called Haley's Hot Take, not because I'm a hot take artist, but because my take that I usually have is hot. Like I said, the Dallas Stars at the beginning of this season of this podcast back in August, we're going to win the Stanley Cup. I'm just saying it's still possible. So you never know. Last year, I predicted the Vegas Golden Knights at the start of the season, and they ended up winning the cup. So there is so many possibilities when it comes to, what can happen in a season. I don't think anybody expected, for instance, the Philadelphia Flyers to play the way that they did. I know they had an 8-game losing streak towards the end of the season, and it sucked, and they should have won a lot of those games. But at the end of the day, they were a team that nobody even counted in being playoff contention. So I think when you take all of that and you truly just begin to think back to moments and seasons and players, maybe they surprise you in a good way or bad way. It allows for conversation to happen. So that is a little bit about me and about the podcast. And I think too, I used to do question of the week. And every week I would answer all of your burning hockey questions. And I'm going to bring that segment back for YouTube because a couple things. One, I want to know your thoughts. And two, I think my reactions to some of these questions are absolutely hilarious. And I'm able to laugh at myself. Okay. So I want to be able to do that for you. So right now it is the Stanley Cup playoffs. And I know a lot of you are probably wondering, Hale, who do you think it's going to be in the finals? Well, I'll tell you. I still think it's going to be the Dallas Stars, despite the loss last night, which was a little bit infuriating, considering the fact that the Avalanche have literally fallen apart. But again, they're still up. Just win it in game 6 and be done with it. Game 7s, I love them. They stress me out completely. So I need the Dallas Stars to win game 6. When it comes to the East, who do I see being in the finals on the East? And I hope you know that this absolutely will pain me. I think it's going to be the New York Rangers, which is the worst case scenario. I did not want that to happen. But at the beginning of Haley's hot take this past season, so season 4 beginning episode, I said it was going to be the Canes and the Stars. So I mean, okay, listen, the Rangers and Stars. The Rangers and Canes are still in their series, so nothing is finalized yet. But how cool would that be if the Canes ended up coming back and they made it to the finals? And I always had the Stars winning. I don't bet money on this for 2 reasons. One, it makes me lose the love that I have for, just watching and enjoying the game. And two, I would rather bet on stupid things like table tennis, to be honest with you. I don't bet on hockey. It stresses me out too much. And I just love the game. So I don't even bet on it. But that's who I think it's going to be. But I wouldn't be upset if the Florida Panthers ended up winning the cup. That's a team, honestly, that I feel like kind of just is itching to get there. And they have so much talent. And they also have a lot of free agents come this season, too. Brandon Montour will be a free agent. Vladimir Tarasenko will be a free agent. You have so many free agents. Reinhart will be a free agent. So their top D men are going to be free agents. I know Vladdy's not, but I'm saying the other two, Reinhart and Montour. And I think that the Panthers really just have it in them to win now. And that's what they need to do. I hate the Boston Bruins. I really do hate the Bruins, okay? But I do have to say that Swayman and Ullmark, they have some of the coolest goalie traditions with that goalie hug that they embrace themselves in. I do like that. But yes, I think the Stanley Cup Finals are going to be, and I'm going to change it up from what I had at the beginning of the season. It's going to be the New York Rangers and the Dallas Stars, and the Dallas Stars are going to win in 6. Boom. Lock it in. Now, again, if any other team that's not the New York Rangers wants to go for the East, completely fine with me. Please step up and do that because I really do not want the Rangers to be in the finals. New York fans, they had it kind of good, right? With their Knicks team knocking out Philly. Then the Rangers. I guess you know what I can say this. The Mets suck and the Giants suck and the Yankees. But are Yankees fans Rangers fans? See, New York has too many teams and it gets a little confusing with, who's a fan of who. I just care about hockey right now. And I do not want the Rangers or the Boston Bruins to be in the finals. So I am just hoping for any other outcome. That was really biased. And yeah, I'm going to be a little bit biased because it's my podcast, but I can also be unbiased when I said things like, the Bruins and their goalie Tatum, and they have JVR, who obviously was a Flyer and he was a Maple Leaf. Speaking of the Maple Leafs, unreal. I feel bad. It's like the past 8 seasons, they've made it to the playoffs and only got past the first round once. Like, that's bad. Like, really bad. And then you look at the Vegas Golden Knights. And listen, I think everybody loved the VGK to begin with. I mean, I know a lot of people that had contending teams, not teams that weren't contending, looked at it and were like, oh, this is so cool. This expansion team is finally playing well, because if you think about the history of expansion teams, usually they don't do well to begin with. And the Golden Knights made it to the finals their first season when the Caps won, but they got out in the first round in that LTIR with, Stone and Hurdle and, Pietrangelo. They are the most shady in quotations team, because what they're doing is technically not illegal, but it feels it, right? They're a team that I feel like nobody can stand. So them getting out of that first round to me felt like karma. But I mean, that was, again, the Stars were, the number one coming out of the West in that Central division at least. And they still struggled against the VGK. So it scares me how good the Golden Knights actually are in reality, and how they only missed the playoffs, I believe, once since they've came to the league, which, again, will definitely change in years to come. But I mean, who would have thought? It is such a crazy story when you look at the VGK. And I always have a soft spot for my Canadian teams, because it's been decades since a Canadian team won the Stanley Cup. And I'm looking right now at this Vancouver and this Edmonton series, and they play tonight. And I really believe, I do. I believe that the Canucks are going to win this. And I know everyone's going to be like, Connor McDavid, Draisaitl. I get the hype. I do. It's not that I don't. But I just feel like the Canucks have just been such a strong team all regular season. And the Oilers, if you don't remember, they did struggle in the beginning of the season. But all season, the Canucks were just this really solid team. So I do feel like they have it in them. Again, huge game tonight. Series is tied 2-2. I'm going to take the Canucks. I'm going to stick with it. If it doesn't happen, it doesn't happen. But I'm not backing down from what I think will happen. So there is a lot of hockey going on. This is my favorite time of the year, because then after, the Stanley Cup, we have the draft. And I will be attending my first ever draft in person in Vegas, which was, again, something that I never thought I would be doing in my lifetime. Not Vegas. I went to Vegas in October, going to the NHL draft and covering it. That has always been a dream of mine since I was a little kid. I loved the draft. I always loved looking at prospects. And again, I'm like, you know what? This is the best time to begin having this on YouTube. So when I go out to Las Vegas, I can do an episode like this at the draft. Well, maybe not physically in the draft, but my hotel room. And I can get some footage as well to put up. So there is a lot of hockey content coming your way. If you want to know where you can follow me on Twitter at Haley T. Simon, HALEYTSIMON. And that's also my Instagram. So you can do that as well. I am really ecstatic, seriously, about this new chapter in my life with doing this podcast. I think sometimes in life you have to gamble on yourself. Notice how I said gamble, because the draft is in Vegas. But that's what you have to do in life sometimes. And this is one of them, because, again, I never in my life would have thought I would have been doing this. So I've had a lot of fun with you today. I will be having new episodes, honestly, all the time. So we might have 3 episodes a week. We might have 2 episodes a week, depending. But there's always going to be episodes, especially now with the playoffs. So get ready. Leave a comment below, as I said, of your favorite hockey memory, because tomorrow I'm going to talk to you about my favorite hockey memory. I will see you tomorrow, and we'll be talking hockey per usual.